everybody. This is Erika Crossley, the senior living expert out here in snowy Houston, Texas, which is everybody's having a good time outside. But I have spent a lot of time on Nextdoor because it just got so interesting. And if you are on the Nextdoor app, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like the comments can be insane. And Trump is now our new president, and again. And a lot of people were talking about what his plans are for Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and immigration. And then also, too, a lot of my friends and people in my circle, their parents are starting to age, and they are starting to come up against these aging scenarios that they don't really necessarily know how to navigate because, they don't really teach us this in school. So I just wanted to do a video because if my circle is having these concerns, then I know other people are having these concerns as well. So let's just go on ahead and tackle them, shall we? When it comes to Trump, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the key takeaway from it is that it is not enough. It is not enough in 2025. It will not be enough during his presidency if he, sweeps it away, if he does whatever he's going to do with the funding. And if another president comes in, it's still not going to be enough then. Okay, so keep that in mind. If the people that I'm getting right now that only have Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, I'm telling you it's not enough. Just know that for the future, it still won't be enough. Okay, Trump is not coming to save anybody. The next president who comes in, they're not coming to save anybody either. You have to save yourself, protect yourself. So my advice to you, if you are concerned about your only resources being your Social Security, your insurances being Medicare and Medicaid, speak with a financial advisor. And people on Nextdoor were under the impression that financial advisors were only for rich people. They're here to advise your finances. So even if you don't have, a lot of money just laying around, you might qualify for a policy. You might qualify for a policy that takes care of in case you need a caregiver, in case you need to go to a nursing home, in case you need to go into an assisted living community. So you might not get residual income, but you might be able to at least get a policy. So my advice to you, if you're listening to this video, especially if you're 60 or older, is at least to sit down and talk to a financial advisor in regards to your retirement and aging plans. This is very important. When we talked about immigration, the lady had a valid point. She's like, caregivers typically get paid $10 to $15 an hour. Nobody can live off of that. I agree. It doesn't matter what Trump is going to do. If he's going to, it does matter. That was insensitive. Let me rephrase my statement. If Trump still deports the population of people that are willingly able to do the job for $10 to $15 an hour, you are still responsible of figuring out how you're going to pay for it in the first place. If they're not going to do it for $10 to $15 an hour, you're going to be paying somebody at least $25. I would be concerned about how are you going to afford that if you do need the caregiver. I will say that. Moving on. Another lady went on a rant that said people can't afford senior living. Nobody can afford senior living is what she said. All these senior living communities around here beg to disagree. The average cost is $5,000 a month. There are some that even go up to $10,000 a month. There are some that have $100,000 buy-in, $500,000 buy-in, $1 million buy-in. That's just the application just to get through the door. And so you have to realize that just like if you were planning to retire in Panama, Mexico, right? You're planning forward, like this is what you want to do. They plan forward to have that experience, right? A lot of the people that go to the higher tier senior living communities. Do not wait for a crisis. If you're listening to this video right now, do not wait for a crisis to figure out where you're going to go when that aging situation hits you. Can you afford the $5,000 to go into assisted living? If not, and you still haven't talked to that financial advisor, now you need to consider who is going to wipe you front to back. Men have been calling me more, actually recently, since like Thanksgiving. I've received more calls from men And maybe because the baby boomers are aging, right? Like, and I should expect that. That would make sense. But men that cannot be the caregiver for their mother or their grandmother, they just can't see them in that space. And then you have to think about it. Like, I'm the oldest. I don't want to see my dad in that space. I don't want to be the one to have to wipe him front to back like that. I think that would traumatize me in a way. And so does that make me cruel or mean? No, it makes me human. And so we're seeing that, and now the men are in a crossroad where they are freaking out. Men don't handle the whole caregiver role as easy as women do. And if they are married, what you do see is a lot of times is that the caregiver role goes to the wife. Even if it's, the father's mother, it would definitely be the wife to be the one to take on that nurturing role. So if you're a wife of a aging mother and father-in-law, and listening to this video, now would be a really good time to kind of have those conversations and figure things out, especially who's going to be the financial and medical power of attorney. And if your parents, even if you're my age and your parents are aging, this is what I would like for you to get in place. So I've already said, kind of ask yourself who's going to wipe you front to back, if if it's going to be the child, blah, blah, blah. At least get access to your aging parents' bank account. And if you have a spouse who's aging and you're not on their bank account, get access to it. You can just get access as an authorized agent, right? It's very simple. It doesn't cost anything. It's very free. And let me tell you why. If you don't have your affairs in order, such as medical and financial power of attorney, and crisis happens, so like let's say there's a stroke, let's say that dementia, comes on full blown or whatever, it doesn't matter. If they can't respond for themselves or they can't direct you to their resources, how are you going to get it? A lot of people are under misconceptions. Like if I'm a wife and my husband is he has dementia, I automatically get access to his bank account records. Nope. I'm saying I'm the wife. I might be able to prove a certificate that I'm the wife, but that doesn't give me right to his bank account, right? So when everyone is able-bodied and able-minded, that is one of the very first things that I highly suggest people do, because once again, we already talked about how much senior living and caregivers cost. You want to have access to their bank account information in order to kind of make things go a little bit much more smoothly and things like that. So that would be the first thing. Financial and medical power of attorney, obviously get with the elder law attorney, and I think everybody should do so anyway. We're going to get a little bit more into that in a second, but what I see my more well-to-do clients do is if they have wealth, their medical power of attorney and their financial power of attorney might not be the same person. Why? Because you don't want the person who has control over pulling the plug to also have access to your money. Right? So I've seen wives not have access to anything. And the kids, like the daughter have access to one, the son will have access to another. Like it just, I've seen a lot. Everybody's family dynamic is different. But if you feel like your family is going to fight over your crisis, this is an excellent reason in itself to just pre-plan. Like have these conversations about what is going to happen if I can't respond for myself, if I get older, if I can't take care of myself, if I don't have enough money. Have a plan in place. Just plan forward. Okay. A lot of people's default plan is Medicaid and Medicare covering their senior living stay in assisted living. That is false. Medicare and Medicaid will not cover your assisted living. That is private pay. If you wanted to go to a nursing home, you can get that covered for like 100% for like 20 days under your Medicare. If you wanted to live there long term, nobody wants to live there long term. But if you have to live in a Medicaid facility long term, you also have to qualify. You have to pretty much be bedbound. You have to pretty much need someone to bathe, groom, toilet, feed. You have to be in a wheelchair. Like there has to be a reason why you're there. Like you can't just be living in a Medicaid facility because you're, You want to. You have to have a reason. And you also have to qualify. You can't have more than $2,000 per month. You can't have assets. You can't have houses and cars and pension money rolling in and all of these different things. You have to be at the level of poverty. You and the homeless guy across the street get $2,000 or less in order for you to qualify. So physically, you can't do much for yourself. Financially, you have nothing. Okay? If you do have something, you want to get with the elder law attorney because you want, it's quicker too, by the way, because you want them to be able to protect your assets. When I used years ago, when I used to work in a nursing home in admissions, we would go back 10 years to see if they had a house and they, recently, put it in their daughter's name or something like that. You can actually get penalized, and I won't go into that because obviously we're not here for nursing home planning or anything like that, but just know you have to not have any money, and if you do have money, you have to do what's called a spin down. Just Google it and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. And if you guys want me to teach you a little bit more about finding the most appropriate nursing home for long-term care planning, just send me a message or DM me and let me know, and I could definitely do a video on that as well. So now that you know that you can't be able-bodied like that going into a nursing home, your only other option is private pay or living in the community, whether it's with your friends, family, or by yourself. That will all be private pay. If you do find an assisted living community that is within your budget, let's say you only have $2,500, you will, mark my words, you will find senior living communities that are like, yeah, we can accept you, not a problem, come on in. Here's the problem. Going in at $2,500, you need nothing. You don't need any care. You could take care of yourself. You can clean. You can go to Belize if you wanted to. You don't need anything. That's $2,500. You need medication? That's more. You need help bathing, grooming, toileting? That's more. You need them to bring food to you? That's way more. You need them to clean? That's more. You need caregiver assistance? You need a sitter? You need companionship? That's more. So you could easily start off with $2,500, especially in the assisted living communities, and then you could easily randomly one day pay $6,000. This is very common. That makes it harder for people to plan appropriately if they only have a set amount of money. So in that case, I would definitely recommend getting with a senior living expert or a strategist such as myself. And if you only have a certain amount of money, we can try to make that stretch and figure out which environments would be best for your budget. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. I already told you to be authorized on your parents' account, so that's a really good advice. Just trust me on that. Your aging in place. Aging in place. We had a conversation about that too. One lady said, for $3,500, I might as well just get a bigger house. I agree. If that's the goal, if you want your aging loved one to be in that space with you, that's completely fine. They have mother-in-law suites now. My only recommendation for aging in place, once again, I highly recommend it, by the way. I recommend it all. I recommend whatever is best for that person. But if you are going to do it, one-story homes. ADA accessibility, meaning that it has the grab bars, the door frames are wide enough. So let's say that you happen to age at 85 and now you're in a wheelchair. It's completely fine, but you want to make sure that that wheelchair can easily fit through the door, fit to the commode, fit to the shower. You have the grab bars. Your cabinet tops are high enough for you to be able to reach things. So plan forward. If you feel as if you don't have enough money to retire, period, they do have these tiny homes now, which I don't know if it's becoming a trend. I've heard people talk about it, but the only problem that I have with the tiny homes is that I've typically seen them in rural areas where there isn't as much access to healthcare and help. So I would kind of consider that. Don't just say, oh, I'm going to move into a tiny home, because there are other things to consider. Right? Like, how close is your doctor's appointment? Your doctors, your hospitals, how are you going to get there? Things of that nature. Okay. Let's see. Oh, also to consider in, like, let's say if you were going to bring in your mother or your father, if you still have your own life, let's just circle back to that, who's going to wipe front to back and how much the caregivers cost. Because even though that they're there with you and you guys might collectively as a unit be saving money, that's fine, but we still have to determine who is going to take care of their loved one in that capacity. Parents, if you are a parent listening to this right now and you have an adult child around my age, or older, I encourage you to sit down and have a conversation with your kids. There is a trend happening where people are saying no. They're saying no to being caregivers. They're saying no to living with their parents or their parents living with them. They are saying no. And it's weird because I remember, I've been doing this I've been working with seniors for 20 years, and the dynamic has shifted. A lot of the parents relied on their children to be their caregiver as they aged because they were their parents' caregiver and they were their grandparents' caregiver. And this is like a generational thing that keeps going and going. So it seems natural. I can't trigger and tell you what that change is, but the change is definitely here. So have that conversation. I'll give you an example. I have had the conversation, obviously, with my parents. My parents are living their best life. They love cigars, they love fine cocktails, they love to travel, they love to dance and go to networking events and all of this fun stuff. Who? Mom and dad, who's gonna wipe you front to back? Do you have money set aside for your caregivers? Do you have your policies and plans in place while you're out here spending all this money and enjoying yourself, right? I'm just gonna let that sit there. Okay, so plan appropriately. It's not just me. Oh, and then there's another thing. Being considered selfish. A lot of people now, I can definitely tell you, one of their perspectives is, how do I say this nicely? We don't live in that time anymore. I will say that. We don't live in that time anymore. We don't, prepare. Like, we have more information available to us now. We have the internet, we have cell phones, we have resources. People are educated more, and maybe that could be the changing of the trend. So we're having this conversation now. 2025 in January. Share this video if you have a aging adult child, parent, grandparent. Talk about the money, talk about the finances, talk about the power of attorney, talk about the living will, talk about where you're going to go, how you're going to afford it, talk about the money, talk about the what ifs. Because also too, don't rely on the kids. And what if the kids move away? What if the kids have their own family? They have their kids, they have their career, their spouse, or whatever. What if it gets to the point where there's, like the lady I spoke to yesterday, she told me clear as day, there is no room for him here. We're barely holding on ourselves. I can't take care of him. I work 2 jobs. I have small kids, and I have a kid that just started high school. I cannot take care of my father-in-law who has dementia, and he only had Medicare and no savings. Okay. Oh, speaking of dementia, another story that I really want you guys to walk away with is, and this is another client that I had, very wealthy client. He was the breadwinner. Obviously, he did very, very well in his profession. He was an engineer, did fantastic work with NASA. All this money also came from money. The wife was a princess. She was pretty much just taken care of, right? He started getting confused and did not complete any of the paperwork. If you have dealt with anyone with dementia, you know that there's a certain time where they can get combative, they can get mean. She had no access to the bank accounts. still to this day, he has passed away. She still does not have access to all of that money. She never paid the bills. So if you have a person in your life, let's say parent, spouse, whatever, if you're noticing that they're starting to get a little pleasantly confused, let's call it that, they're starting to get a little pleasantly confused, they're not really themselves, now would be a good time to get with someone like myself, a senior care expert or a senior care strategist, to kind of help you make sure that you have things in place to prepare for the what ifs. Dementia is everywhere now. I think it's in the food. And I'll do a completely different video on that later. I know it's in the food. I've been working with seniors for literally 20 years. I started at 14. I'm telling you, when I was at that age, I would go up to the memory care floor. I have a backstory why I wasn't really working, but I had to because my mom made me. It was free labor anyway. No child labor involved. But I would go up to the memory care unit, and everybody was in 80s, 90s, 100 years old. That was dementia. When I say 80s, I'm talking about 89. Now people are starting to get confused at 50, 60. Stop eating the processed foods. I don't even, just Google it. This is not even up for debate. If they say that dementia is not called, yes, it is. Stop eating, sausages, and if God didn't create it, it's probably poisoning you. And in the separate rant, I don't know what a seedless grape is and a seedless watermelon, but why don't eat that either. Take care of your body. Your body will take care of you. If you feel like your parent is, or anyone is in the beginning stages of being pleasantly confused, we can call it that, check the diet. If the diet is full of genetically modified foods that don't expire, they don't rot, they come out of a box or a bag, it doesn't have to be prepared, that's your trigger. And if you think I'm kidding, Google it. I hope that this has helped. I hope that this has helped. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you want me to do a video on nursing homes, a little bit more on Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. I know that that's going to be a big thing with the Trump administration. If you have any suggestions or ideas about planning that you want to run by me, just let me know. If you're my age and your parents are still out there living their best life, if you want to have things in place to help you best take care of them so that the burden doesn't fall on you, especially if you're the only child, then just reach out to me and let me know. I'm here to help. Bye, guys.